Let me get myself, there we go. Hi everybody, welcome to the Biokinetic K9. Today we're talking about, does your dog struggle with a conditioning, fitness, training exercise that you are helping them to develop their body with? This is something that comes up quite often, and we see it all the time, and there are a number of factors that contribute to this, which we're going to go through very briefly, but we're going to talk about one, and then maybe we'll talk about the others as the weeks come through. So I'm glad that you're joining me. Welcome. And I am Angela Hearn. By the way, if you don't know, I'm the owner and founder of the Biokinetic K9. I do fitness and conditionings, and I particularly love it for our sporting dogs. I'm in IGP myself, and so when it comes to IGP, it is super important, like for every sport, that your dog is doing a fitness and conditioning routine, especially to build up strength and to correct those imbalances from training for your sport, so that your dog, when you're going to do your actual events and trialing, your dog is ready physically for that trial, not only knowing his training, but his body can actually do the movements with power that you want. So let's go. Does your dog struggle with a gym exercise? Well, these things can happen. If you are around and you are seeing this afterwards, let me know. If you're looking at the replay, or if you're watching your live, say hello, let me know where you are. It's always awesome. But of course, there are some factors that contribute to a dog struggling with an exercise that you are working on for canine conditioning, to get that body conditioned. And these factors, there are 7, and we can just go through them very quickly, and I'm going to be talking about one in particular. But there is definitely the environment that you are training in. Sometimes there's too many distractions. You must remember, if you're doing a conditioning exercise, you're teaching your dog something new. So when we're talking about down to a stand, it's not just a down to stand. We want the dog to move in a particular way to engage certain muscles, so that they are exercising the muscles to get that nice, even, balanced and symmetry of their body and their musculature within themselves. So doing the exercise, what is the environment like? Because we are going to be training them with new things and different behaviors, and we want them to actually concentrate and focus. And if it's a busy behavior and there's other dogs, they're going to be way too distracted, especially if you've got a sport dog that is like, oh my word, they are busy in any case. So you want to set up the correct environment for your dog. You want to watch also, there will be fatigue. So if your dog is not getting the exercise correct, is it physical fatigue? Is it mental fatigue? Because they're learning something new. So you've got to watch for there are signs of fatigue, where those signs of fatigue, they actually cause your dog to not be able to execute the movement correctly. Imagine if I've got to go to gym and, oh my word, it's a big leg day today, and I've just run and my legs are tired. I can risk injury. I'm not going to be able to do my squat movements correctly. I'm not going to be able to brace my core correctly to hold that weight on my shoulders. All of these things, if you are tired, if you're mentally distracted, you're not going to be concentrating on the exercise, and the exercise will not be executed like it's supposed to be. We're looking at owner mechanics. Where are you standing with your dog? So many times we've got people, and they're standing with their dog, and they're helping to lure an exercise, or they're marking exercise, just like we do in training. Let's just take, for example, IGP training, when we're doing our heel work. Your own body, for your dog to be in the proper position for heel work, is really important. Where and how you carry your shoulder, all of these things, dogs read body language. So how you carry your own body affects how their position is in their normal obedience heel work. But the same happens now when we're doing conditioning exercises or fitness exercises with our dogs. If we are standing to the one side of our dog all the time, and when we're doing conditioning exercises, it's a repetitive movement. We're looking for 10 repetitions of a certain variation of an exercise. So that repetitive movement, and if you're standing only on the left-hand side or only on the right-hand side of your dog, and your dog is looking at you every time you reward it, it's only turning its head this way, and you are creating a muscle imbalance where you should be balancing out those muscles. So where you are standing is really important when you are working your dog. Could they be bending towards you so the back leg is a little bit off target, or a little bit, there isn't a even weight distribution on the back legs or on the front legs? Are you rewarding always up, so there's always this big crook and a hyperextension of the neck and over the withers? Are you rewarding maybe too low, so there's too much weight on the front shoulders and you're not working the back legs like you are supposed to be doing? So where you are physically with your dog affects their execution of an exercise. And your continual incorrect position may be hampering their effective movement of an exercise. Because you must remember, your fitness and conditioning, we are looking for particular movement mechanics so that the muscles are exercised optimally. You don't want to just do an exercise and it's not targeting the muscle that you want. And this is really important. Otherwise, you're wasting your time in the repetitions and the dog's getting tired and you're not targeting the muscle that you need to target. So your form and posture is really important when you need to target something, especially if your dog was injured, you're doing a rehab exercise. If that form and posture is not correct, why bother? You're not working on the correct leg if the form and posture is not correct, and if you don't know how to notice if that form and posture is correct or not. So your owner mechanics, where you standing with your dog, is really important. Then, of course, there's a health. Is your dog healthy enough to actually do the exercise? Are they just coming out of an injury? Are they super fit? This is also one thing. Is your dog super fit that the exercise is way too easy for them and it knocks them off kilter because they're not balancing themselves correctly? So the health of their dog, are they tired? Have they been doing other exercises and now they've got to do a strength exercise? Remember, it's not a good idea to do dedicated strength exercises on a body that is already tired. Are you doing stretching exercises but the dog hasn't been warmed up yet? What is that health factor with the dog? Then always look at equipment. Equipment is really important when it comes to the correct execution of an exercise. You may be using equipment that your dog is not ready for. It may be making the exercise really too busy for them to concentrate and work on the muscles that you are looking to work on. So make sure that your equipment is non-slip. It must be able to be stable, that they're not going to be sliding off. They must feel confident and comfortable on using that equipment. It's no good using equipment for a dog where your dog is like, oh my word, I don't know they are too scared to be on the equipment, and now they still have to execute a movement. It's always important that the dog is able to go onto and get off the equipment themselves. Don't just take a dog and put them on a peanut or whatever the case may be, and they don't know how to control that piece of equipment. They must feel confident in engaging with the equipment that you are using. And different equipment, even though you're doing a very similar exercise throughout, different equipment will cause different muscles to work and not to work, different muscles to engage and not to engage. And that's really important to understand. And then the seventh factor, this is the one we're going to be talking about today, is the training, the actual training of that exercise. Do you know how to train the exercise? If your dog is not familiar with conditioning exercises at all, what do they understand what form their body has to take when executing the exercise? Do they know that they actually have to shift their weight backwards in order to do a fall back down first, or do they come forward and then do that fall back down first? Are they putting all the weight on their front shoulders, or are they putting all the weight on the back pelvis area when they execute an exercise? When your dog does a jump over a low jump, are they jumping off from their front shoulders or are they jumping off from their back legs? These make huge impacts when executing an exercise and developing the correct muscles for a particular outcome in your sport. This is really important. So are you, when you're doing the exercise, are you rehearsing poor form and repeating that incorrect form and structure each time so that the execution of the exercise is not quite what it's supposed to be? Or do you know what the good form looks like, so that when you ask the dog to execute the exercise in a particular way and you holding your body in the correct angle so the dog can actually execute it, are you then doing it correctly? And when it comes to rehearsal of poor form previously, sometimes that comes from our sporting side. Take just, for example, IGP and the heel work. Our dog is used to working like this, and now we're coming and bringing them onto fitness and conditioning equipment and maneuvers, and their body may be unbalanced because they're used to working in a certain way. So they're coming onto equipment and they don't have proper muscle balance and symmetry. Their muscles may be of different sizes, actual physical sizes, of different strengths and different flexibilities, just from heel work, just from doing some protection work. All of these things will contribute to an incorrect gym exercise being executed, where the dog is not keeping their feet steady, or the one foot is coming forward every time you do a movement. Are you noticing these things? Because if that one foot comes forward every time you do an execution of an exercise, it warrants that you go and investigate, why is this happening? What is going on? Sometimes it's happening because the dog is anticipating and they know exactly what to do, so they rush to do it and they're super excited. And then it just could be that the exercise is too easy and it's time for you to progress and create a little bit of overload on those back legs so that they can remain still. So are you rehearsing poor form and then contributing to the bad execution of an exercise and not targeting a muscle? Are your dogs standing with perhaps their back legs are too splayed? They are standing wide, or their front legs are standing wide. They're not standing at a balanced position. Then you are executing the wrong muscles for a particular strength training target. So your training will be, number one, poor form, and you are needing to relearn some muscle memory from either your sport training, or you have to practice these things and redo it with your dog. So of course, practice doesn't make perfect. You can be practicing something slightly wrong, missing that muscle altogether, and so you're not getting anywhere. The outcome is not going to be the correct outcome for your dog, because they know how to weight shift and bypass certain muscle structures. They do this so well. But do you know what to look for? Do you know what that good form looks like? This is really important. So practice that proper form, proper posture. Knowing what the proper posture looks like is very important when it comes to executing an exercise, for the posture of that exercise that you're doing and why you are doing it. What exercises you are wanting to target is super important when you are training an exercise, which leads on to, maybe you don't know what muscles you need to target when you are doing an exercise. So do you know that you need to target the rear muscles just for the launch of a jump? Is your dog jumping off on the front legs, or is it jumping off from the back legs? How is your dog landing? All of these things, do you know what muscles you need to target? These things you need to know in order to get the best effect of the training that you're doing with your dog. And if you don't have that knowledge, both your knowledge of the exercise and your dog's knowledge of how they need to move their body, you are not going to get the desired outcome of that exercise. And the dog is not going to execute it correctly, and you're not going to get the outcome. So your lack of knowledge and the dog's lack of knowledge of how to move their body is really important when it comes to optimal execution of an exercise. This is super important. And then from that, your lack of knowledge and your poor form all comes because you are missing that foundation of how to execute the exercise. This is super important. Even if you look at your strength training athletes, they are the basic exercises that you see these posts everywhere. If you had only 4 exercises and you had to maintain strength training, what would it be? There's always a squat in there. There's always a deadlift in there. There's always a bench press in there. and maybe hyperextensions, etc. But there's those basic foundation exercises that target really major muscle groups and the form that you're doing it. How you execute those movements in those foundation exercises. Then if you know those foundational movements, all your other training gets packed on those movements, and you can apply them to 90% of all the other exercises that are out there for getting your dog fit and strong for their sport. So if you are missing the foundational knowledge of why your dog has to move in a particular way, how to get them to move in a particular way, what is the foundation, stand, a square sit, a proper down, and how to get your dog into those positions, you need to know the importance of them, why we do it, and how to get your dog into those positions. Then you are looking at developing the proper exercise mechanics for an awesome workout for your dog. If your dog has not got those basic foundation movements, just like in your training, if you are missing your training in your basics for heel work, those holes in your foundation come out later on. The same happens in conditioning. The holes in your foundation work will come out where muscles are not being targeted, and then you're going to miss the boat on all the work that you are doing. It's not to say that you've now arrived at your conditioning and your dog can do all the exercises and you're done. It's the same as when you go to gym and you want to be a certain weight, or you want to be a certain fitness level, and you train and train and train, and then you get there. It doesn't mean you can stop now. The fact that you got to where you want to be means you have to maintain that level. So if you're missing that foundation where you want to be and all the work that goes in between, really it skips and changes, and you have to reconnect and go back to your foundations so that you can be where you want to be in order to do what you want to do with your dog and target the muscles that you need to, because every sport creates a certain imbalance of muscle within the dog. Every sport has different strengths and weaknesses that it promotes within the musculature of the dog. And we need to know what those strengths and weaknesses are within the sport development, and then also apply that to what does our dog look like? Where are the strengths and weaknesses within our dog? Has a dog, just because of their structure, have they got a weaker shoulder skeletal structure? What's the angulation of their rear? Does it impact and form a weak core? Is my dog's core just weak because of the sport that we're doing? All these things play particular roles, and then how we strengthen them for the sport that we do is really important, so that our sport can do more for the dog. So when it comes to your dog struggling with an exercise, how you train that exercise is super important. You need to know the foundation mechanics of the exercise. Why do you do it? What muscles are being targeted, and how to create and effect that movement within your dog. You need to know the foundation, know the form of the dog, what is the posture that the dog must be in, and what the posture that the exercise must take. This is super important. If your dog ever gets injured, which is, these things happen, but we don't want it to happen, touch wood, you always know exactly what to do. If any rehab professional tells you to target this particular muscle with any exercise, you know what the form and posture looks like, and you can then target those muscles. You are able to identify weaknesses if you know what that foundation looks like. You are able to improve your dog's form and posture with the exercises if you know what the foundation exercises are working. So always get understanding about the foundation of how to do any strength exercise training. Those foundational exercises are super important, and we will always be practicing them. If anything happens, you always go back to the foundation. So that knowledge is super valuable. That foundation training, super valuable. And then, of course, with you increasing your knowledge, that lack of knowledge goes away and your training improves. And then, of course, if your lack of knowledge goes away and the training improves, you no longer have that poor form in the execution of an exercise. So when it comes to your dog struggling in a gym exercise, how you train an exercise and the knowledge behind the training of an exercise is super important. So I hope these help you. Go back and whatever exercises you are doing with your dog, know why you're doing it and know what the proper form of that exercise looks like so that you know what muscles you are targeting. Know where you are standing with your dog and know the signs of fatigue with your dog. Sometimes your dog they're becoming really strong, and sometimes their strength will get the better of their body, and you need to then know how to progress that training. So I hope all of this has helped you, and I'm hoping that you are going to have an awesome weekend of training with your dog. Have a very productive weekend. It's Mother's Day this weekend here in South Africa, so we're going to wish all of the moms out there the very best with their days, and all the kids, just make sure your mom knows that she's really special. Okay, so I'm going to say good afternoon and have a very, very awesome weekend. Have a good time training, and I will see you next week. Let me put all of our information up here. Put this down, put that up. There we go. If you liked what you have learned today, please give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Cheers, everybody. Oh, you can go visit our website, thebiokinetick9.com. If you have any questions, you're most welcome to pop me an email. I'm Angela, fit@thebiokinetick9.com. And there you go. Cheers, everybody.